And we are live. Hi, I'm Ian with Author's Cabin. I am interviewing T.R. Nickel, as it says on your book jackets. Uh, Tiffany, why don't you tell the people who you are and what you do?
Well, I am an author. I write high fantasy novels for ages about, I would say, like 16 and up. It is a five-book series that I'm working on right now called The Legends of Lemuria. And besides that, that's pretty much my main working space right now is the Legends of Lemuria series.
Awesome. So you said you're doing a five-book series in that. How far are
Yes.
you currently?
Right now I have two books out.
Nice.
Gotta rep the merch here, right? Um, uh, so I have two books out right now, and currently am working on the third installment. So,
Awesome. When do you think the series
mhm.
is going to be completed by? Like, what's your turnout rate?
Well, I'm trying to do a book a year, which is tough
That's
because
crazy. That's so
yeah, I'm doing a
crazy.
book a year is the plan. I'm struggling right now with trying to meet the deadlines because book three is a bigger undertaking than what I originally thought it was going to be. So.
Book a year. What's your routine like? Like, walk me through your writing routine. Because like,
Oh
if I
God.
were told to do a book a year, like, I would be like, well, I guess I'm not doing this.
Well, okay. The routine is very loose. I would say it's more of like a sporadic timeline. I have deadlines, right?
Hmm.
Just like any writer would. You have to have this done by this time and um but I kind of just write when I get inspired to do it. Like when I have this like I need to sit down and do this many words every single day, I fail at that. Like I really struggle to do things like that.
Yeah, I'm kind of the
And
same
I
way.
find yeah, I find that like when I just sit down when I feel the inspiration to do my writing is when I get the most like effort and like the better results out of that.
Hmm. So
Hold on
tell
one
me.
second. I need to move my cat. Hold on. He's being naughty. He's trying to
Actually,
chew on my
could
headphones.
you put the cat on? Kind of
Come
interested.
on. He's chunky.
Oh, that is a big boy.
Yeah.
um, I hope he just hangs out there for the rest of the interview. That would be great. Really cool stance.
He
Tell me a little bit about you. When did you start writing? When did you kind of start this journey? When did you come up with your ideas?
mhm.
What is your world like?
I well, I always say I really started writing when I was like in second grade. If you could really call it writing. But I would jot down these terribly spelled poems in a little yellow memo pad that I would carry around with me literally everywhere. And I just really enjoyed doing that. Hold on. Fun. Come on.
Oh man, there's
Come on.
more.
Hold on just a moment. Come on, buddy. I need you to not be making noise right now. Come on. I know you're agitated because I'm not paying attention to you.
As cats tend to do.
Sorry. When I'm talking to somebody and he doesn't realize it, he immediately starts making as much noise as possible.
Mm,
Like he's like, I want to step on everything that crinkles.
typical cat behavior.
Yeah,
Um,
yeah, yeah. Sorry, I'll start over.
you're good. So you were talking about writing in a journal. Do you still have that journal from
I
second
do.
grade ish?
I do still have that journal
Do you ever
actually.
look
It's in a
back?
yeah, and I cry about it every time. It's
Really?
so bad. It's so bad.
Yeah,
I
no.
like
I think that
it.
once you get into the like sphere of writing, that everyone's got like,
Mhm.
the skeletons in the closet. Like, this will not see the light of day unless I am dead kind of
Yeah.
things.
Yeah. Yeah, that's how I feel about my first book that I've ever I ever wrote, especially.
Oh yeah, for sure.
Um,
Me too.
yeah, it's yikes. I wrote it when I was 13, and holy crap, do I write very dark stuff.
Honestly,
When I was
if somebody like had that as blackmail fodder, that would be like I would do whatever they wanted.
yeah, it's rough. It's I honestly think that maybe one day, uh, somewhere down the line, I'll maybe try to rewrite it. Um, so my actual main writing is not fantasy.
Really? What is it?
Y- Yeah, so I like thriller horror, like
Okay.
mystery, like that's what I wrote
Do you think that
growing
comes
up.
out in your fantasy writing?
I mean, I think the twists and the turns that I put in my books, it's like a little homage to that.
Mm.
I like really messing with the reader's minds, just because that is very much my writing style, which is why I never thought I'd write fantasy. Like, in all honesty, I never thought that I would be writing a fantasy series. Like, that was so out of left field. Like,
That's
was not what I
interesting.
was anticipating. But I am truly loving it. And I think anyone that's read my books could understand that it doesn't feel like a fantasy novel when you're reading it. Like, there is magic and creatures and things to that extent, but I try to make the world seem more real than it is a fantasy.
Okay. So typically horror, kind of branching into
Mhm.
fantasy.
Mhm.
What made you want to write fantasy?
So I play a thing called Dungeons and Dragons.
I'm sure a lot of us are familiar.
Yeah. And my first character was a half elf ranger named Zalia, who is actually the main character of book one, Light of Evanora. I never got to finish her story. I created the Adamina clan, I created her, basic backstory, where I wanted to see her grow for that campaign, but it pretty much ended like right away. I created all this stuff, this entire portion of the world for that campaign, and I wanted to do something with it. So I created Limoria, my world, and put Zali and her story in it, which evolved and changed as I put it into a world that I was creating. And I just realized that the world was just too small for just her. And so I created the other legends that make up the series. And then as I was writing book 1, I thought, "You know what? Why don't I publish this? Like, why can't I be an author?"
So
Like, I don't
it started as almost like an exercise, and then
Mhm.
all right, that's cool. That's
Yeah. I did not write it with the intent to publish it, but when I was nearing the end of like the first draft, I thought, you know what? Why don't I just push it out there, see what someone says, and we'll go from there. And I didn't think I necessarily had the gams, to
the
make it as an
gams.
yeah, I really did. I really didn't think I'd make it as an author. Like, I was like, I'm gonna get shot down. I'm gonna feel terrible about myself, and I'm never gonna write again. Like, I really thought that that was what was gonna happen.
I
But
think a lot
lucky,
of authors kind of struggle with that for sure.
yeah, like self-sabotage and,
Mm.
the whole imposter thing, where you're feeling like you're not good enough to even call yourself that. Um, yeah, like I still call myself a writer half the time instead of an author. But I'm like, "Oh wait, no, 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 no. I need to say it. I need to say that I'm an author." Uh, so yeah, it I was really excited to take it from this like just fun thing that I was doing to kind of fulfill the need that I wanted to finish Zalia's story to like a published book with pages and my face on the back of it.
um. All right. So you're two books in.
Mhm.
How is it going so far? Do you have like the entire story kind of mapped out in your head, or is it kind of still this like evolving, naturally growing thing for you?
I would say I have the the major things plotted out, and like the main characters, their backstories are fully fledged out. Their development that I want to see is fledged out, but it does evolve. The events that happen in book 2 with some of the characters that you'll meet was so unplanned that it literally changed the rest of the series.
Really?
And yeah, like I was really frustrated because as I was writing it, I was like, I know exactly what is going to happen in book 5 with this character, right? Like I know how the series is going to end for this one character. And so as I was writing it, I started to see this other thread start to like float in, and then it just like clung on. And I was like, my characters in my book just wrote their own story. Like,
Yeah.
I can't change it now because it makes so much sense and I love it so much, even though it literally makes me rewrite so much more work, like down the line. It just made sense. And
That's a very
yeah.
relatable feeling, honestly. The characters kind of writing their own story, because, like,
Mm-hmm.
I've had multiple instances of that in my own writing where I think it's going one direction, but then I take a look at it and I'm like, no, this person wouldn't behave this way. They would
Right.
behave
Yeah.
this way, and it would take this
Mm-hmm.
story on a different tangent.
Right. And
And yeah, I totally
yeah,
relate to what you're saying.
yeah, I do this thing called, which I think I'm the only one who calls it this, but method writing. Like method acting, but where like I truly get in the headspace of my characters. I have playlists, like you can see them on my Spotify. I don't know if anyone should
Careful.
listen
I've
to
seen
them.
some of your characters, and that headspace is probably a bit weird at times.
It is very weird. So I do have playlists with them, and I don't know if anyone would ever want to listen to these playlists, but they are on my Spotify. Um,
That's kind of a
that
like a cool interactive tidbit. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, if you like some of the characters, there's play some are more fledged out than others. Like I'm a repeater. So when I really like a song and I'm like, this is perfect for this like big chunk of the section of the book in terms of where they are in their headspace, I will literally just listen to that same song for hours, like on repeat. But I get into the character's headspace and truly try to live through their eyes. And I have to keep little sticky notes and reminders around my computer in my writing space to remind myself at certain points like, oh right, my who I am right now doesn't know this is going to happen, but as the author, I have to know that this is going to happen. So, to make sure that I'm
Kind of
relaying it
leading to there.
appropriately,
Yeah.
exactly, like little hints of what's
Foreshadowing
to
bits.
come.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. So, and also like Easter eggs. Like Easter
Mm.
eggs that I want to put from the other series. So
Oh,
there
that's
are Easter
interesting.
eggs from book 4 and 5 that are in
Already
the first,
planted.
yeah.
Oh.
hmm
Okay.
That makes it challenging. That I will say, sometimes I put an Easter egg in there and I'm like, now that it's already
now,
published, I'm
yeah.
like,
Now
maybe I
you're
shouldn't
kind
have
of
put it in there.
obligated to. Otherwise, you've. Yeah, it's kind of like a Chekhov's gun kind of thing. Like it has to pay off into something. Now you're like, you're
That or no
tethered
one will
to it.
know. No,
Yeah.
I'll just pretend it never happened. One of those two things. One of those are my only options, really. Is
uh,
either commit or just completely ignore it. Like, oh, I don't know what happened to that.
yeah, I mean that's definitely one way to hold yourself accountable for sure. Keep on the game plan. I hope you don't have another book 2 scenario where it's like, oh well, everything's different now.
Yeah, yeah.
I can see the
That's
panic in your eyes as I said that.
it does it's crazy. Like when you're the reason why I have such a hard time with book 3 is I know me and you have talked outside of, just chatting of like my struggles with book 3 and why it is so complicated. And it's because I've never read anything like it. I've never seen anything like it. I've never heard of anything like it.
What do you think makes it unique for the viewers at home?
It is how do I say it without like spoiling it is the hard thing. Okay. Imagine the story being told by 3 to 4 different people at the same exact time.
Okay.
Like,
Like,
and I mean line for line, different people telling the same story.
mhm.
And that's what makes it troublesome because you can't say who is saying what. The reader really has to be the one to understand as they read the story of who these characters are. Um, and, my hope is, the people that have read what I've written said that they pick it up really well and it's not confusing, which is like my biggest worry is like making sure people actually understand what's happening. But I would say that's the hardest part is just knowing innately because I'm such a method writer of like
Mhm.
getting into the character's headspace when I'm writing through so many people at the same time as the words are coming out because this is first person and third person at the same time. So
Yeah, you
it's
did
very
mention that.
challenging.
Mhm.
Yeah, it's very challenging.
Playing with
Um
perspectives.
mhm.
But
So it's super fun.
the first two books are strictly first person, if I recall correctly.
Strictly first person, yeah.
Okay.
Mhm.
Um, so getting back into those books, what are some of the fandoms that you think would be interested in your type of world?
You know, that's such a good question.
Yeah, that's why I asked
Honest,
it.
I've struggled with trying to figure that out for a while because like even though I don't think it's a realistic comparison or even like a fair comparison, but people like often say, well, it's like Lord of the Rings.
Mhm.
I just don't see that being like even close to comparison. Um, but it is in the sense that it's a freshly created world. The rules that of what fantasy don't really always apply. Um, it's really its own thing. Though I think any person that likes books that really are about the character which you're reading through versus just this super high strung where there's so much happening, it's so crazy, out of this world problems. Um,
You kind of
my
you're
book
saying that
is
you try to keep the stakes pretty personal.
yeah, like
Yeah.
there are overarching major problems that are happening in the world because that's what a series needs.
Mhm.
Um, but really each book is about that character, that legend that I'm writing about. And I mean like, it's really hard because when you compare yourself to other authors, and I mean like for any writer author out there, I'm sure they feel this is when you're trying to compare yourself to other books, other authors, you could feel inferior or you could feel like maybe that's not the right comparison or like maybe you don't agree with everything that author's ever done. Um so it's hard to like that's why I struggle with that question is because what could I really relate it to when it's technically its own existence? Like there's no other book in Limoria. There's no other book that's based about the Vermilion Forest or the governmental issues that happen in the world. Um so I think anyone that loves fantasy would enjoy it and also those people who maybe are interested in fantasy but are scared of it because it is sometimes just so high level that
Mhm.
it's hard to digest. I purposely wrote books 1 through 5 in order of like beginner level to fantasy to moderate to like expert.
It's a little
So
more grounded, yeah, for sure.
yeah,
Having
just
read
because.
one and a half of your books now. I would say probably anybody into D&D is
For sure.
probably a good
Hmm.
target for sure.
Yeah,
Maybe a little less murder hoboing.
very. Yeah,
a
there's
little
a lot
more,
less
a
of
little
that.
more of a story focus as opposed to, well, let's
Hmm.
just sow as much chaos as possible.
Yeah. Hmm.
um,
Yeah.
but that's good. So you think that you're stepping up your like levels of complexity when it comes to fantasy as you write the series?
Yeah, I do. Um, book 3 is a lot higher level than book 2, and book 2 is a slightly higher level than book 1. Book 1 is very I don't really introduce a bunch of rules to magic in book 1,
Hmm.
mainly because I purposely did that because the character in that book doesn't really explore that as much.
So you
And
say the
then
character in that book. So the characters
Zalia.
across the different books are different.
Yes.
This is more
Hmm.
for any watcher's benefit than my own,
Yes.
but
Yeah. So book 1 focuses on Zalia, who is that half elf ranger that I played in my first D&D game. Uh and I mean, anyone that's played D&D knows that rangers do have magical abilities, especially depending on their class. But so Zalia's knows and understands her abilities to the basic extent of what they are. She does learn about them through the novel, but I purposely did not go into like overwhelming detail because I wanted to write the books in a gradual increase of education on the magical abilities. Book 3, you'll really learn about the magical system. Book 2, you learn a little bit more about the rules of magic, specifically forged magicae. That's how I call it. With Renatus, who is the legend of that story. Mhm.
okay. So is every single book going to be a new character then, or are there any going to be any like Marvel Cinematic Universe type meeting in the middle type of deals, or?
um, Throughout all the books, you will see characters from the other stories. They're all intertwined.
Mhm.
Some do take like years. Like the age gap or the year gap between book 1 and book 2 is 18 years, like around that time frame. Um, and book 3 is actually like 500 years before book 1.
Oh wow, okay, quite the
Mhm.
jump.
Yeah. So, but you will get to see characters that exist in other books in each other. So, um they do always intertwine. Um but yeah, each book, especially 1 through 4 is really about the individual journey of that legend that we're learning about.
Okay. And their actions
Mhm.
kind of affect the other legends. That's interesting. I think the
Mhm.
continuity there. It's definitely going to be a challenge to write, but
Yeah.
definitely an interesting thing. You can really play around with the different perspectives and
Mhm.
really get into the head of different characters.
Right.
But
And
I would
I
go for it.
I really wanted people to be able to pick a side, like
Hmm.
have a team that they're on and feel really connect. You may not be able to feel super passionate and connected like this is me, to every character, nor should you, right? Because every character should be a full-fledged person and not just a single archetype.
Hmm.
Um so, like I wanted to make and write people that anyone could really see themselves as. So I wanted to create a world where there's a diversity of legends and it's not just all one type of hero.
I gotcha. Yeah,
Mhm.
that's definitely I think that'll speak to a specific kind of reader. I think
Mhm.
who likes seeing kind of character complexity even in the people that they don't necessarily want to root for.
Right. Mhm.
But speaking of character complexity, what are some of your favorite characters that you've written that aren't the main characters? And yeah,
They're all my babies. No.
no, there's a couple that
I
I.
I love Vasile so much. He is
And
one
who's
of the
Vasile?
sides. Vasile is Zalia's best friend.
So this is the main
Um,
character in book one, her best friend.
yep. Yes.
Okay.
Yes. And I love him so dearly. I truly he is probably one of my favorite characters. I really want to eventually write in his point of view at some point because it is just a chaotic mess up there. And then he has these because I truly know all of my characters, and sometimes I wish I could develop them more than what I can, since it's not their story. But he has these moments of like pure clarity when
Cat.
Bon no.
I would say Vasile is like a chaotic good character.
He is a
Yeah.
chaotic good character, and he has these moments of just like pure clarity where you wouldn't even recognize him. Like in his brain, like he's this fun, bubbly, it's so out there, extroverted person.
Yeah.
But
I'll say.
when the time calls for it, he has this just precise clarity of what he needs to do in that moment. Jovi, stop it. Hey.
Speaking of extroverted, I think you might have got some inspiration from your cats for Vasile's character.
Yes. Oh gosh, yeah. It's funny you say that. So I record YouTube videos, right, for my own channel.
Sure.
And
Shout out that
uh
channel just for anybody that's watching.
TR Nickel Inc. That's me.
All right.
TR Nickel
I'll have a
INK.
link or something in the description if I.
Yes. It so in one of the videos, Bon is distracting me terribly, and I feel bad for my editor. Because it completely throws me when he gets all up in my face. But I'm like telling him how he's the only inspiration that I ever needed. And I look at the camera and you could tell it's just lying to my child.
I mean, sometimes it's got to be like that, you know.
Yeah.
You can't tell
Hmm.
him the truth; it would hurt him too much.
I know. Um, yeah, my cat is probably the most human cat I've ever experienced. He throws tantrums and he'll go into his room and shut the door
Hmm.
when he's done dealing with me for the day.
My cat craps on the floor.
Oh, that's nice.
Yeah, honestly, the most human thing that I've ever seen a cat do
Hmm.
because
Hmm.
it's always out
Yeah.
of spite.
Yeah. The anger is real.
Yeah.
Hmm.
Okay, so getting back to it. Um,
Yes,
uh,
yes.
so, what are some of the best memories that you have of this series so far? Like, either be it a particular scene or a part in the process.
Mhm. I Writing has always been Bon, stop it. He's just sitting there playing with the frickin' bag. Jovi, Bon, please. Sorry.
You're
Boop.
good.
Writing has always been something that is extremely emotional for me. And before Light of Evanora, I had never widely showcased my work ever. It was always very private to me. And I knew that would be really hard not to push that emotion into my novels. Uh, but it's a different type of fun. You psychotic cat. Come here.
Pretty sure he's upside down.
Okay. You're getting held because you're being naughty. I know. It's so tough being a kitty. I know. It's so hard. Um, I can't even remember what I was saying. Writing is such a therapeutic thing for me and always has been, and why I really like held on to it. So when writing the novels, I was really worried about it becoming this over emotional thing for me.
Mm,
So being able to write the novels, it was a very different type of therapy because it wasn't just my story that I was telling, or like my emotion or my own development, but really speaking to things that I see in the world now and being able to talk about it in a way
mm,
that isn't just for me, but for anyone who's struggling with that. And that was so cool. Hearing back from, like my editor and as she was reading and her emotional response to the writing. I wish I could say the specific parts, but that would be just spoiling it.
mm.
So it's really cool to see people react to
The
the
stuff that you've,
emotion.
yeah, the stuff that you've
Yeah,
planted.
like
Yeah.
yeah, the emotion that I implanted to purposely share it, not just with like my own, like I said, it's not my story, but like of other people's journeys and other people's experiences. And I feel like that is the coolest part and will always be the coolest part is getting to help other people through what they're going through just
Mm-hmm.
because I know reading has done that for me and they're now having that reaction and that relationship with the words I put down on a paper, like a piece of paper.
Well, that's a high note to go out on. All right, Tiffany, where can we get your novels?
You can get them off of my website, tiernickel.com, where you can get signed copies. You can go to some bookstores, depending your area here in Wisconsin. Down in Kenosha, it's Donovan's Studio Moonfall. In Oshkosh, it is, hold on, I can't remember the name.
Oh
I will
no.
find, okay.
Yeah.
And if you're in Oshkosh, it is Caramel Crisp and Cafe. So those two are the local stores here in Wisconsin. But other than that, the big bucks, Amazon, you can
All
buy it
right.
there.
So it's on Amazon, your personal website, and a couple of bookstores in Wisconsin, Oshkosh and Kenosha
Hmm.
specifically.
Yes. Yes.
All right. Well, thanks for coming by. I appreciate talking to you as always.
Of course.
And we're going to end
Thank you for
the
having me.
broadcast right there.